1. When designing a preparation course for the OAT test, which instructional strategy best aligns with adult learning principles? A. Providing passive lectures with minimal interaction. B. Allowing learners to draw connections between test content and real-world applications. C. Relying solely on standardized test banks. Avoiding learner feedback to maintain control of instruction. 2. In evaluating OAT practice performance, which method ensures the most reliable measure of progress? A. Single high-stakes practice test. B. Informal peer feedback. C. Multiple formative assessments across test domains. D. Self-reported confidence surveys. 3. A mentor guiding a learner for the OAT wants to support reflective practice. Which approach is most effective? A. Assigning time drills without discussion. B. Encouraging journaling on test-taking strategies after practice sessions. C. Repeating identical test questions. D. Minimizing self-assessment to reduce stress. 4. In curriculum development for an OAT review program, which step ensures alignment with regulatory compliance standards and testing? A. Designing questions based on popular online study guides only. B. Mapping objectives directly to OAT test specifications published by the official body. C. Using outdated test blueprints to maintain consistency. D. Creating content solely from mentor experience. 5. Which communication strategy is most effective when providing feedback to OAT learners? A. Delivering general praise without specific details. E. Using corrective feedback tied to specific performance data. C. Withholding feedback to avoid discouragement. D. Providing only group-level feedback. 6. An evaluator reviews an OAT prep program and notices test questions that exceed the scope of the official exam. Which action reflects best practice? A. Retain the items to challenge learners beyond test scope. B. Revise the items to match exam specifications. C. Disregard alignment concerns to save time. D. Remove all practice questions. 7. A mentor seeks to balance accountability and support for OAT learners. Which method reflects adult learning principles? Establishing co-created study plans with learners. Dictating a rigid schedule without flexibility. C. Ignoring learner input to maintain authority. D. Prioritizing mentor convenience over learner needs. 8. During evaluation of OAT readiness, which data source best supports targeted interventions? A. Aggregate group averages. B. Item-level performance analysis by content domain. C. Learner attendance records. D. Informal classroom discussions. 9. Which mentoring strategy most effectively develops test-taking confidence for OAT candidates? A. Emphasizing past failures to highlight areas for growth. B. Modeling successful reasoning through think-aloud demonstrations. C. Providing minimal direction to encourage independence. D. Reducing practice opportunities to minimize anxiety. 10. In structuring OAT practice tests, what ensures fairness and compliance with standardized assessment principles? A. Randomly writing questions without reference standards. E. Aligning practice items with validated cognitive domains of the exam. C. Using culturally biased examples to challenge learners. D. Designing items without peer review. 11. When evaluating curriculum effectiveness in an OAT prep course, which method demonstrates rigorous assessment? A. Reviewing learner satisfaction surveys only. B. Measuring changes in diagnostic and post-test performance. C. Asking instructors about perceived learner growth. D. Collecting anecdotal evidence. 12. A learner expresses frustration with repeated mistakes on OAT practice passages. Which communication technique supports resilience? Ignoring the learner's concern to maintain progress. B. Reframing errors as opportunities for skill development. C. Discouraging the learner from revisiting difficult topics. D. Minimizing the importance of mistakes. 13. In OAT instructional design, which principle ensures inclusivity for adult learners with varied backgrounds? A. Presenting uniform teaching methods regardless of learner differences. E. Incorporating multiple modalities such as visual, auditory, and applied practice. C. Requiring learners to adapt to a single instructional approach. Avoiding discussion of individual learning preferences. What is the primary role of formative assessments in OAT preparation? A. Ranking learners against each other. B. Guiding instructional adjustments to meet learner needs. C. Determining final pass-fail readiness. D. Eliminating the need for summative assessments. 15. A mentor guiding an OAT study group wants to foster peer collaboration. Which strategy best achieves this goal? A. Encouraging learners to share reasoning strategies in group debriefs. B. Requiring silent individual study during all sessions. C. Minimizing interaction to reduce distractions. D. Allowing only the mentor to explain correct answers. 16. Which evaluation method best measures long-term retention in OAT candidates? A. One-time end-of-course test. B. Spaced practice quizzes over several weeks. C. Immediate recall activities only. D. Learner self-estimates of retention. 17. In curriculum mapping for OAT preparation, which practice demonstrates strong alignment? A. Designing lessons first, then matching them loosely to test sections. B. Starting with test blueprints and creating lessons directly tied to them. C. Ignoring test competencies in favor of broad science review. D. Using unrelated case studies for engagement. 18. Which mentoring approach best balances challenge and support for adult learners? A. Setting unrealistic performance expectations. B. Encouraging self-directed goal setting with mentor guidance. C. Withholding constructive criticism to avoid discouragement. D. Requiring learners to follow identical study methods. 9. When evaluating OAT practice materials for quality, which factor is most critical? A. Length of practice sets. B. Alignment with cognitive levels required by the exam. C. Visual appeal of the test booklet. D. Use of complex jargon to appear rigorous. 20. A mentor notices that a learner performs well in untimed OAT practice, but struggles under time constraints. Which intervention is best? A. Increasing timed practice sessions to build pacing skills. B. Avoiding timed practice to reduce anxiety. C. Ignoring timing issues to focus only on content mastery. D. Discouraging further practice under stress. 21. Which communication practice supports ethical mentoring in OAT preparation? A. Guaranteeing specific test outcomes to attract learners. B. Encouraging transparency about the limits of test preparation. C. Minimizing disclosure about testing standards. D. Criticizing learners publicly for poor results. 22. In evaluating the effectiveness of an OAT mentoring program, which outcome measure is most meaningful? A. Learner attendance rates. E. Improvement between diagnostic and final practice scores. C. Number of instructional hours delivered. D. Learner participation in group discussions. 23. A mentor plans to adapt an OAT prep curriculum for online delivery. Which principle ensures effective learning transfer? A. Limiting interactive features to keep lessons simple. B. Incorporating opportunities for active engagement and feedback. C. Relying solely on lecture-based video recordings. D. Avoiding digital practice assessments. 24. When aligning OAT instruction with adult learning theory, what is the mentor's most important role? A. Provider of all correct answers. E. Facilitator of learner-centered exploration and application. C. Enforcer of rigid instructional routines. D. Sole authority controlling content delivery. 25. Which evaluation tool best identifies areas where OAT learners need additional mentoring? A. Summative test scores alone. B. Detailed diagnostic assessments by domain. C. Generic performance reviews. D. Peer evaluations without scoring. 26. In designing OAT review lessons, which method fosters higher-order thinking skills? A. Encouraging rote memorization of formulas. B. Using case-based scenarios that mirror test applications. C. Repeating identical practice drills. D. Reducing complexity to avoid learner challenge. 27. Which mentoring strategy demonstrates respect for adult learner autonomy in OAT preparation? A. Offering flexible study paths while providing expert guidance. Forcing learners into a single prescribed study sequence. C. Dismissing learner preferences as irrelevant. D. Prioritizing mentor convenience in scheduling. 28. When reviewing OAT test prep compliance, which standard is most critical to uphold? A. Accurate alignment with published test specifications. B. Preference of the mentor's favored teaching methods. C. Content trending on social media platforms. D. Learner perceptions of difficulty.